Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you in part by Mays Sandwich Shop, serving delicious hometown favorites to the West Lawn community since 1947. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
He's in! Patriots win the Super Bowl! Brady has his fifth! What a comeback!
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 242nd episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. It's kind of crazy to think about when we started these NFL predictions. Kind of wrap things up tonight, and I think we are ready for the NFL to start.
Oh, absolutely.
Football in general,
It kind of has,
including the NFL. Yes, and also I think NFL teams are ready, considering guys are dropping like flies in this Week 3 preseason. So
it's been rough if you had an early fantasy draft like we did.
Yeah, for the record, I think you are going to see even fewer stars play in Week 4 than you normally do. Like you'll probably get guys who don't even get the 3 or 4 snaps and then are out because teams are like, nope, not
happening. Yeah. So I guess probably the biggest one has to be Edelman.
Yeah,
that's got to be the biggest one. They
arguably the best receiver on that team.
Probably overall, especially on the stat book.
I'm not counting Gronk.
Well, okay,
But even if you do, you could make an argument.
Right, who's more important? I guess we'll find out.
Right.
Because we've seen them play without Gronk. It's gone okay.
Right.
Now, we also have seen Spencer Ware, the Chiefs running back, go down. Not with an ACL, with a PCL, which usually is something that they feel you can recover from. But they just said that they expect him to miss the whole season. And just today, Cameron Meredith, the Bears' breakout wide receiver last year, is feared to have suffered a torn ACL as well.
Yeah, the Bears also, their long snapper, I think they believe tore his ACL.
Yep.
And there might have been another one for the Bears, and there's a couple other. It's all over
we
the
saw
place
Bryce
right
Petty could be maybe starting quarterback for the Jets. He has a significant knee injury. I don't think it's ACL. I think they were saying MCL. But again, ACL, PCL, MCL, LCL, all in your knee. All are ligaments in your knee. And generally the A is the worst. M is common, and usually the P and the L get injured if you injured one of the other two.
So ACL is what prevents, like if this is your leg, it prevents the top. It keeps the bottom part, your shin, your tibia, and your femur in line essentially, so that the bottom part isn't shifting forward or back. Which pretty much, if you think about,
guess you need that.
If you think about the bottom part of your leg moving independently from the top part of your leg,
his
uncontrollably,
legs swell about as if independent from his body.
Exactly.
That's a Friends reference.
I was trying to toss that one up to you, but yeah. So it's pretty interesting, to think of all of those things, and that was just in the last couple of days. The Cowboys middle linebacker, has some trouble. Like it's widespread right now. I think teams are ready to just get to the season, try and cut their losses and move on.
Well, if we're speaking of injuries, it's a good thing we're doing the AFC East because one team has suffered a lot of injuries, and I'm not talking about Bryce Petty and the Jets. I'm talking about my Dolphins,
yes.
and they're believed now up to 5 or 6 starters that have been knocked out for the season with injuries.
Adam Gase has got to be thinking, like, you can't be serious. Like,
so
this is what you're giving me here?
Everyone knows about Tannehill.
Wait, what happened? Okay.
So Tannehill obviously gone. They lost
Jay Cutler to the rescue.
2 offensive linemen expected to start in Ted Larson and Craig Urbick. They just actually, injury settlement released Urbick. So that's not good. He started, I think, at least 15, if not all the games last year. A majority of them for Pouncey, who missed. So Pouncey's actually back, surprise. A little bit of surprise, because both of them,
for now,
his brother in Pittsburgh and Mike in Miami, generally miss more of games than they play. So right there, 2 offensive linemen starters and the quarterback. Then on defense, they lost starting cornerback Tony Lippett and starting rookie middle linebacker Raekwon McMillan. Now, he's from Ohio State, but once he becomes a Dolphin and leaves that in the past, I'm all on board. And I was very excited for him to be in Miami because he's one heck of a player. And he tore his ACL in the first game. So right there, was that 5 that I mentioned?
I think it was 5, yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, Jay
Ajayi
had a
another week,
so yeah,
give it time.
Another 5 could fall. Another 5 could fall. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, so this is our last NFL preview show, which Justin kind of already mentioned. We're going to do the entire AFC East, which probably won't take all that long because there's not a lot to say, I think, that's different than what's out there or what has happened basically for the last 15 years.
Oh.
Yeah, God, it makes me want to throw up.
It's like a punch with an extra push to the stomach when you say it. 15 years. Yeah.
It's like a punch to the face, a punch to the stomach, and then the kick to the groin.
Yeah. It's like someone hit my crotch someone hit my soul's crotch.
Whatever way you want to slice it, it's not good. So we're also going to obviously do playoffs and Super Bowl predictions here at the end of the show. So who do we think is going to make and win Super Bowl LII, which I believe is 52.
Yes.
If I can do Roman numerals. Super Bowl LII. 2 I's. So let's start at the bottom. And could this be home? Could the AFC East in 2017 be home to the worst team in professional football? I'm going to have to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the teams is trying to be.
And that is the New England Patriots.
Yeah. As much as we would love that to happen, oh gosh.
Can't we go back to when they were terrible?
No, yeah, that was a lot of fun actually.
It was like 30 years ago, but could we go back there?
I distinctly kind of remember from when I was a really little kid. They weren't very good.
God, guess who's watching live? Already chiming in.
So, I feel like okay, so
when we were growing up, the Patriots were pretty bad.
Yeah.
So
was my
I
team.
can remember. Well, that's true. Mine wasn't.
All right.
I vividly remember. I think the first NFL season I remember, I think, was 1993. I know that's the first baseball season I remember because the Phillies. I remember all about the '93 Phillies, and I think the '93 football season was the first one I remember. And the Dolphins were good. The year before that, they lost in the AFC Championship game. They I don't remember if they made the AFC Championship game the next year when the Bills ended up winning. The Dolphins, they won the division the next year in '94. They were very good for the majority of the '90s when I was growing up. And then the Patriots came along, and they had something going in the mid to late '90s. They fell off a little bit then, and then all of a sudden 2001 hit, and it's been a tough ride for me. It's been a tough ride for me as a Dolphins fan. I mean, it could be worse. I could be a Jets or Bills fan.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
The Dolphins.
The Jets had those 2 years where with Rex Ryan, where you're like, oh man, are they good enough? Nope.
Right. I think Miami has won in the last 17, not including this year, obviously. The 2000 through the 2016 season, the Dolphins have won 2 division titles, which doesn't sound great. Then the next closest team won 1, the Jets. Notice I didn't mention the Bills because they haven't won the AFC East since 1995. And actually that was a 5-team division because the Colts were still members. The Colts have more recently won the AFC East than the Bills have. The Colts won it in 1999. The NFL realigned in 2002. But yeah, it's been a long time for the Bills.
That's funny.
Well, we talked about that with another team, didn't we, recently? In one of the divisions, I might have done it on a show without you.
I think you did it on a show.
I'm trying to remember which one it was. I know it's not the NFC South because we know every team in there has won the division.
Right.
They went in this cycle worst to first a lot. I don't think it was anyone down there, but there was another division that a team not in the division has won it more recently. Maybe it was in. I wanted to say maybe NFC North, because I picked the Lions to win and they hadn't won the division in a while, right?
That could be.
I could be completely off on that. But anyways, back to the AFC East. So we think it'll be home to the worst team in pro football this year. Thankfully, not my Dolphins, which we saw them be the worst team back in 2007. I don't think it'll be the Bills either. While I don't think the Bills are anything special.
It's a far cry from nothing special to the worst team in football. And
this is
by a lot.
The New York Jets have kind of become the laughingstock of the NFL. ESPN ran a story about how things have changed over the last, about 3 to 5 years. How the Jets, because like you mentioned, the Jets were a team with Rex Ryan for a couple of years that looked possible to go toe to toe with the Patriots.
Right.
They didn't seem afraid, or they had the team to do it. They were built around a defense, as Rex Ryan would do. They had enough offense. They played some good games at times, but they had that great season, a little worse than next year, and then they just fell off. They just couldn't hang. And it kind of went hand in hand with the Pitt cornerback, who has just gone into oblivion now. Does anyone really care about Darrelle Revis anymore? I don't know. I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I think so.
And they couldn't do it. The Dolphins got lucky in 2008. And of course, that was the year that Tom Brady tore his ACL. And the Dolphins.
Didn't the Patriots miss the playoffs at 11-5
The Patriots did miss the playoffs at 11-5 that year. The Dolphins won the division at 11-5, and no one has done it since then. The Patriots have won the division every year since 2009. And 2009 wasn't exactly a very strong year for the Patriots, only winning 10 games. But since then, they've won at least 12 games every year since 2010. 14 games twice in a year with 13 games. So you can pretty much pencil them in for a minimum of 12 wins. And once we get to them at the end, I'm sure that's where we'll both be going.
Yeah.
So, but let's get back to the bottom, and that's the Jets. We mentioned that Bryce Petty, who may be in line. No one knows what they're going to do at quarterback. They signed Josh McCown. They've been trying to give it to Christian Hackenberg.
And he keeps giving it away.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not living up to the hype that he had. Just 5 years ago, it was talk that he could be, the future Mr. NFL. And he struggled towards the end of his Penn State career. And now he's struggling again in his second season with the Jets. So was Petty going to get a chance? Well, now he'll be out for an extended time with a knee injury. So it looks like it's going to be McCown. And he's a fine quarterback, It is what it is. But they don't have any other big, important players on offense. You have the end of Matt Forte,
yep.
And then Bilal Powell, which fine, but that's not going to probably win you too many games.
No,
the offensive line's a mess. They have no one at wide receiver. Their biggest wide receiver, Quincy Enunwa, who kind of burst onto the scene and had inconsistent but strong fantasy performances last year, he's out for the year, right. Maybe his career, because it's a spinal injury.
Right. Yeah, it's looking really bad for the Jets. Yeah, I don't really know. There's all kinds of things. I don't know. It's really hard. The word. And this doesn't come around a whole lot in terms of an entire season. The talk comes around usually halfway through the season if there's a couple teams that are in line maybe to get that number 1 overall pick. You start to get some serious tank talk, but usually not this early. You know what I mean? Rarely is that a thing so much, and that's what people are throwing around with the Jets right now. And I look at it I defend the tanking in the NBA. I know people hate it, but it's the way the system is set up. That's how you can get better. And in the NBA, you can get better quickly doing that. If things play out.
Although you ask fans in Philadelphia, we're wondering what's going on.
Right.
But
no,
hey,
yeah.
TTP, baby, TTP.
That's right. But if you look at it, we always talk, the worst thing you can be is mediocre. That being said, this Jets team, all right, so they get the number 1 overall pick. They draft a quarterback. That's quarterback's still going to be on a terrible team.
Right.
Like,
they needed to start
football,
building.
it's hard. Football, it's hard to add one player and that be all the difference. Now, you can lose a player and have it be all the difference, especially if that guy's a quarterback. But, like, how many really good quarterbacks have we seen, or guys that are supposed to be really good, have all the tools for the NFL? Not even, like, there's no question of translating to the NFL, but they end up on a terrible team and you never hear from them again. And that's to me, that seems like the perfect storm here. And Sam Darnold has got to be really hoping the Jets don't.
Hey, he can just go back to school.
You're right. And he might, because you've seen his attitude. Like, the articles on him are pretty interesting. How he's like, he didn't play football till like high school. Like, he didn't you hear this term all the time, but he's like a well-rounded But then you get that thrown around like, well, does football matter enough to him? That whole talk, which I get, but if I were him and the Jets have the number 1 overall pick, I'm going back to school.
What you want, you don't want a team that's tanking or getting rid of talent or in money problems, and you don't want to go there to number 1. We saw that with Eli when the Chargers took him, and he immediately was sent to the Giants. He didn't want to play in San Diego.
Who, since then, has historically been bad with their draft picks as well.
Right.
Like, they lots of people don't want to go to San Diego, or LA, the Chargers, to play for that organization. It's not the team per se. It's not the people there. It's not where the location, because everybody loves to go to Southern California. But they don't want to deal with the GM and ownership.
The players, and it's not just quarterbacks, the top talent players, the top 5, top 10 picks, what they want is they want a team that was strong the year before to have a significant injury or just a string of bad luck and go from 12-4 to 4-12 like the Cowboys did,
or the Colts, like with Andrew Luck,
the Colts
like that kind
when
of
Manning
deal.
left, right?
Yep.
So the Colts were a decent team. Manning leaves, they become a terrible team. They get Luck and all back there to average to above average.
Right.
They were stronger a few years ago.
Right.
It's kind of dropped off, but. I was thinking about the Cowboys a few years ago. In 2014,
and they saw a bounce back last year.
Right, 2014, they went 12-4 and won the division.
Yeah.
2015, they suffered through injuries. They had some bad luck. They dropped to 4-12. They get Zeke. They find Dak in the third, and all of a sudden they go 13-3 last year, and were one of the best teams in the NFL. They fell to the Packers in overtime in the division playoffs. And, who knows? If they beat the Packers, do they go to the Super Bowl over the Falcons?
No.
It would have been in Dallas, not in Atlanta.
It does bother me.
But that's just a what if. But that's what your top players want. They want that good team that hits some bad luck to be drafting or trade up for them. They don't want the terrible team like your 0-16 Lions, your 1-15 Dolphins.
Who would?
Or the Browns for the last 20 years, basically. And now we kind of see that that's where the Jets are at. But look at the Jets last year. So they won 5 games last year. Look at the 5 games they won. They beat the Bills by 6. They beat the Ravens by 8. They beat the Browns by 3. They beat the 49ers in overtime by 6. And then the last week of the season, they crushed the Bills. But
when the Bills needed to win to make the playoffs, by the way.
Well, that's a terrible one for sure. But so they beat the Bills twice, the Ravens,
I can't believe that.
The Browns, and the 49ers. So I guess Ravens is probably their marquee win there. They were probably the best of those 5, although they beat the Bills twice. I mean, but
that's got to eat away at the Bills, man.
Oh,
that's the difference between the playoffs and not.
Oh, absolutely.
Right there.
And the Bills haven't been back to the playoffs since 99, I think it is. They haven't won the division since 95. So, that's obviously why the Bills are in a different direction now.
Right.
Former Eagles assistant McDermott is up there now. He had gone down to the Panthers for a while, went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. But, so the Jets were well below average last year, and none of those games did they have a dominating win until the last week of the season. Yeah. They could have easily lost any of those other games.
Yeah.
They could have been 2-15 last year.
Right. And you look at it, week 1, they should have beat the Bengals, but found a way to lose that game.
True. There's a flip side to it, but
right. But I'm saying that I think speaks to the Bengals a little bit last year too.
They also had close losses to the Dolphins, the Rams, and the Patriots in a 3-week stretch.
I remember that Rams Jets game, 6-9, was awful.
Yeah, people were making fun of it for sure. So, and then they had the Eagles curse last year. They won October 30th, didn't win again until December 11th. I mean, it was worse for the Eagles because you actually spanned 3 months, in name at least, even if it was the end of the month. We actually went from, October, November until the end of December. It was like 90 consecutive days where the Eagles didn't win a game.
Yeah, a little rough.
Yeah, it was a little rough. So, yeah, the Jets, man, it's
the Jets, boo.
I mean, that's fine with me because I don't like the Jets.
Right. And listen, I don't know what they're trying to do.
I mean, they went through massive coaching staff changes.
I find it hard to believe. Well, I won't. Never mind. Whatever. We won't get into it. But yeah.
Chan Gailey retired, so they got a new offensive coordinator. This is one of those
things that becomes a toxic environment real quick because the veterans aren't going to want to stick around.
Right.
Especially guys that want to chase a ring. And
basically the veterans that are fringe for other teams or maybe get cut, that's the only reason they're going to end up in the Jets.
Yeah.
Basically, if you need a job, that's where you're going to end up going. So, a new offensive coordinator, John Morton. We talked about this every week. Former players. Now, Kevin Green's been out for a while, but he's now with the Jets. Leroy Glover is the bigger one there that I noticed, assistant defensive line coach. And so here are the guys that left the Jets. Nick Folk and their starting tackle, Giacomini. Nick Mangold was released. Brandon Marshall was released. Darrell Rivas and Kerry Robinson were released. So there's just kind of a purge there happening in February and early March. Then they let go of Gilchrist, a safety Marcus Gilchrist, which was one of their ballyhooed signatures a few years ago when they were supposed to compete with the Patriots. That didn't work out. And then they traded Calvin Pryor, a first-round pick, to the Browns for a linebacker on June 1st.
Yeah.
So, what did they add? Bruce Carter, athletic freak from North Carolina, been in the league for a while. He spent time with the Cowboys. He was added. Villanova product Benny Jalana, offensive line. Then, so we're done. That's about it of any substance. Now, they did get Jamal Adams out of LSU in the first round, 6 overall. He was he's very much hyped up. We'll see if that can anything happens there. In the third round, they got Ardarius Stewart, the wide receiver from Alabama.
That was an interesting pick, I thought. And Leggett from Clemson. I know that was in the 5th round, but he produced. He could be solid there, but it could get ugly quick.
Yeah. Now, listen to their wide receivers. We said none was injured and out for the year.
Raise your hand when there's someone here you've heard of in relation to their NFL career.
Right, not college. Robbie Anderson, Frankie Hammond, rookie Chad Hansen, Chris Harper, rookie Gabe Marks, Jalen Marshall, Sharon Peake, we just mentioned rookie Ardarius Stewart, Kenbrell Tompkins.
I think I've heard of him
Yeah,
before,
he was with the Patriots. Miles White, and the only reason you know of Lucky Whitehead is because of the fiasco with Dallas.
Right.
And rookie Daniel Williams. That's their wide receiving core. Now, former Ohio State speedster Devin Smith also there, also on IR with Quincy Enunwa. Now, Justin mentioned Jordan Leggett at tight end, the rookie. They also have Austin Safarian Jenkins.
Right. So they've got a couple guys
there.
there.
So he's a big target if he can keep his head on straight. Probably the biggest offensive lineman they have left in name is Kelvin Beachum, because Brian Winters, but I mean he's obviously on the downside of his career, and also James Carpenter. Both Carpenter was a former first-round pick of the Seahawks, and he never became anything. Their best player is probably Muhammad Wilkerson and Leonard Williams along the defensive line.
Yeah, they have a good defensive line
for sure.
The problem is, they may be able to stop some people sometimes. They're not going to be able to do it for full games. Almost no NFL team can unless you're a great defense.
Right, because
look, what did we talk about before? We said 20 points, right? If you hold a team to 20 points or less, you should win, right? What number do you put that at for the Jets?
27.
No. I'm saying like.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I understand.
Right.
What you're saying.
So I was going the flip of that.
I see. Man, the Jets' defense will have to hold teams, I think, to 10.
Yeah.
10
because
to 13.
I think they get a touchdown, 2 field goals a game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, basically, if you score 13 points against the Jets,
I think you're gonna win.
Yeah, you should win.
Yeah. How bad is that?
So, like, their defensive line, McClendon, Wilkerson, Williams, and our boy Devin still there as a reserve. Linebackers, Bruce Carter, Demario Davis, Darren Lee, Lemonier, Maldine, Pasinger, he's been all over the place, including the Giants and the Dolphins, and Sheldon Richardson. So they got a good stable of linebackers, too. Defensively, they just brought in Jamal Adams. They signed Morris Claiborne. Buster Skrine is the only holdover from that spending spree a few years ago. And, Chandler Catanzaro is trying to rejuvenate his career after falling off for the Cardinals. He's kicking now with the Jets. So they have a decent defense. Probably above average. Maybe a top 12
I was going to say,
defense.
Let's say we slot their defense at 12 to 10.
Yeah, 10 to 12, top 10 to 12.
The problem is their offense is probably
the thing is, they
27
could
or
maybe be
worse.
an 8 to 10, but because of what the offense is going to do, it's going to drop them down, field position and whatnot.
They're going to be historically bad on offense.
Yeah, I think they're going to be quite bad on offense for sure. So, yeah, that's the Jets. I don't even know if we need to look much at their schedule, but
no, because it won't matter.
Right. They finish with the Patriots on Christmas Eve. They open with the Bills on September 10th. Their byes until week 11. So Jets, what do you think? Can they win?
I put them at 2 or 3 wins.
I was going to say over or under 3.
I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, no push. I'll take the under. I'll say 2-14.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at their schedule real quick, maybe the win against Jacksonville and
Cleveland.
then the Browns, the back-to-back, so they may win week 4 and 5 and not win again. They do play.
Well, but it's at New Orleans.
Right.
They host the Chargers
on
Christmas
Eve. An early start right now.
I mean, even if the Patriots would have it locked up and not play anyone, their backups are still better than the Jets.
Yeah.
All right, so my third place in the AFC East is going to be the Bills.
Me
Despite
too.
the Dolphins' injuries, I still think Buffalo is the second worst team or third best team in the AFC East. They were 7-9 last year, but we did mention if they just beat the Jets, they go 9-7 and potentially are in the running for a wild card spot. But they can't do that. So we obviously saw Rex Ryan era come to an end. Those Jets losses were big for sure. But losing in overtime to the Dolphins on Christmas Eve last year, that also was a big blow, which kind of took the air out of their sails.
Yeah, you're right.
To end the season.
Yeah.
But they're sitting at 6-5 as December rolls around, and they're thinking, hey, if we win 3 out of these 5, we might make it. And what did they do? They went 1-4.
Right, with that only win being the
beating
Browns. Now the loss at Oakland, that's not a bad loss. The loss to the Steelers, not a terrible loss. But then you're still thinking, so you're sitting at 6-7, and you have the Browns, Dolphins, and Jets left, and they go 1-2 and finish 7-9.
Right. So they were
tough.
in the games. They lost the Steelers by a touchdown. Lost to the Dolphins in overtime by a field goal. They lost to the Seahawks by 6. They lost to the Dolphins earlier in the year by 3. But losing to the Ravens, Jets, and then the Jets at the end of the year, those 3. Really, the first 2 games and the last 2 games just kind of were killer.
Right.
Especially, could you imagine if they had started 6-0?
They should have.
They lose at Baltimore by 6. They lose at home to the Jets by 6. Then at the end of the year, they lose at home to the Dolphins in overtime, and then they get housed by the Jets in New York. Honestly, the Bills should have been better than 7-9 last year.
So I ask you,
what happened? Why do I think that they're going to be next? Well, new coaching staff, which sometimes is a benefit, but they've been making some interesting moves
for a decade.
Yeah, well, that's true, and I don't know. I
agree. I agree with you.
Maybe maybe I'm just being a homer. I don't know. So they
traded Sammy Watkins, who I know is hit or miss, but they get Jordan Matthews, who is also hit or miss.
They brought in,
and he gets hurt immediately.
They brought in a new kicker in Hauschka from the Seahawks. They brought in Micah Hyde from the Packers, Mike Tolbert from the Panthers.
Right, but this is what they've been doing forever. Like, when was the last... Okay, scratch Sammy Watkins. The Bills, their best players are never from their draft picks.
Right.
Right? Like, they're always trying to make a splash in free agency.
But, I mean, listen, so those are the big names that they brought in. Maybe I skipped over a couple. Sharice Rice from the Ravens, and I'll mention Gerald Hodges for his Penn State acumen. He was starting for the 49ers recently. But they lost Gilmore and Gillislee, both to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Robert
so
Woods
you know they're going to be good now, too.
Robert Woods goes to the Rams. Goodwin goes to the 49ers. Justin Hunter, who was their reclamation project, now ends up in Pittsburgh. And their first-round bust quarterback, E.J. Manuel, is now in line to get a division title or maybe a conference title, although I think that's a long shot, with the Raiders.
Yeah, one of the crazy ones are, like, when you look at E.J. Manuel, I always go back to the story of Jimbo Fisher saying, like, a head coach going on the record with teams saying, don't take him. He's not ready.
Right.
And they took him because people will say that after the fact. Pete out in Seattle.
Carroll.
Pete Carroll said it with Mark Sanchez after the fact. But they'll usually say it to the quarterback. They usually don't say that to the teams. They talk him up to the teams. But no, he said it to the teams. The Bills took him anyway.
Yeah. So in the draft, Tre'Davious White was their number 1 overall pick. They dropped way back for the Chiefs to get Patrick Mahomes. And, great. They made another guy expendable, which they ended up trading to the Eagles to get Jordan Matthews and Ronald Darby. And you already mentioned they traded Sammy Watkins away.
There's rumors that they would trade McCoy if they got a good offer.
Yeah.
Because I saw it floating around in Philly this week. Should Philly try and trade for McCoy? I feel like Philly's too strapped right now to actually be able to do that.
They haven't really had much of a confidence in Tyrod Taylor, but he's back to start again. They drafted Nathan Peterman late. They have T.J. Yates, who started a playoff game for the Texans. But they have Shady McCoy, and now they brought in Tolbert. Speedster Tywan Jones is there as well. So they've got bodies there. As long as they can block for him, they have a relatively solid offensive line with Incognito, Glenn, Henderson, Wood, who I believe they might have just extended. They also brought in Vladimir Dukas.
So you basically kind of lay it out. Like, looking at it, honestly, you could make an argument that they're the second best team. Like, you could.
Absolutely. I definitely
But the thing is, all right, we've seen for 2 straight decades now that they haven't been, even when they've had the talent, and they haven't that whole time, not all during that whole time, but at points they've had the talent to do better, and they just haven't. So I think, at least for me, I kind of get to a point where I'm like, all right, well, I'll kind of believe it when I see it with the Bills. Like, Tyrod Taylor, I kind of think he's good, but I don't think the Bills do, and they kind of waver on it, and they kind of go back and forth. It's a perfect example. We say you don't want to be in the middle. Well, that's where the Bills have been for a while.
A long time.
They haven't had the number 1 pick in any of those decades.
No.
But they haven't made the playoffs in that time span either.
I'm not sure if they've had
They're just like an NFL
5 pick.
They're like an NFL purgatory,
like they pick between 5 and 15.
Right. Yeah.
So wide receiver, their starting 4, my guess would be free agent addition Andre Holmes, Jordan Matthews, who they brought in via trade, Rod Streeter, also recently brought in as a free agent, and Brandon Tate, ditto. Brandon Tate also could just be a return specialist, and they might get something out of their second rounder or maybe third rounder, Zay Jones. So they signed Dolphins cast-off Charles Clay a couple years ago. I don't know if that really has made a lot of noise for them. I mentioned the offensive line is fine. So I'd say the offense is average to above average.
Yeah.
Like, they're obviously better than the Jets.
Right.
I'd take that offense over the Jets every day of the week.
Yeah, like 2 or 3 times
Taylor
maybe more than that in terms of wins.
Taylor, McCoy, Matthews, Clay with that offensive line, I'm okay with that. They're probably probably sort them 10 to 12.
Yeah.
Maybe 12 to 12, 13, but I think they could be a top 10 offense, maybe right there at 10, but that's still top 10. But defensively, are they going to be able to do it? Well, what the heck is Marcel Darius' problem? Like, he has issues that they need to work out. He was just, I believe, kicked off, basically sent home.
Yeah.
So is he going to be even available at the start of the season? Jerry Hughes had 1 big year, not much since. Shaq Lawson, I think, is another another disappointment so far. And Kyle Williams, a mainstay at tackle. They brought in Gerald Worthy. But, average, would you say? Average? You know, if Darius plays the way he should be able to play, above average.
Yeah, good luck getting that to work out,
right,
though.
But their biggest linebacker last year was Zach Brown. He's in Washington now. Reggie Ragland looked like a great player, tore his ACL and missed the whole year last year. They brought in Gerald Hodges. He could start at one of the outside linebacker spots. And as much as I love Hodges, he's probably more of a special teams player and a backup.
Right.
So they lost probably their best linebacker to free agency. Defensive backs, we mentioned Stephon Gilmore's gone, but Micah Hyde came over. He's a nice safety. But other than that, what else stands out to you? I mean, they had to draft a guy in the first round to fill in that secondary. Right. They traded Ronald Darby to the Eagles.
Yeah.
So I think defensively they're gonna take a step back.
I agree.
If you combine the Bills' offense with the Jets' defense, I think you have something.
Yeah.
I think you have maybe a 8, 9, 10 win team. With this, we said the Jets are 2-14.
If you throw in some of the Dolphins players too, do they have a team that's good enough to beat the Patriots?
The three teams in the AFC East do not have the talent to beat the Patriots.
Oh my gosh. I can't disagree with you. I'm just like, that's absurd that we have to even say that, right? Like, that's absurd.
But again, and I think if you looked at it on paper, you'd be like, yeah, this team could beat the Patriots, but would you wager money on it? Right.
No.
Absolutely
I never
not.
bet against the Patriots. Like, I may think they might lose a game. I might always hope they lose a game. Actually, that's not true. Because when they're playing the Cowboys or the Redskins or the Giants, I'm rooting
for them a few years ago.
Not in the Super Bowl. Not in the Super Bowl. I'm not doing that. But like during the regular season, I know you do. And you made a deal with the devil.
I didn't root for them last year.
You made a deal with the devil, and look where it got us. Where it got us.
I've apparently made that deal like 15 years ago.
Yeah, so why'd you do this?
I don't even know.
Why'd you do this to us?
I don't know. Why did I do it?
I blame you.
So I'd say Bills 7-9 again. 7-9, maybe 8-8.
Same. Yeah.
I don't think they went 7-9 last year. They probably could easily have been a 9 or 10 win team. I think they got a little worse, so I'll put them at 7-9 again because I think they underachieved last year.
Yeah.
So they live up to their potential. I think they're a 7-8 win team this year. So we'll get to my Dolphins. They were 10-6 last year. I don't have them matching that win total.
No, I don't either.
1, because of the injuries. That's a huge blow. 2, they have a much tougher schedule. While I think before the injuries, they were a better team on paper, I'm not even sure I would have said they'd get to 10 wins without the injuries.
Right.
So I think they are an 8-8, 9-7 team, just slightly better than the Bills.
Exactly where I'm putting them.
While I wish they could win 10 or 11 games, I just don't see it. They struggled last year at the beginning. They should have been better than they were. They were sitting at 1-4 after the loss to the Titans on October 9th.
And the Seahawks, that loss at the Seahawks.
Oh, that was brutal.
Yeah.
And then they made a valiant effort that came up short against the Patriots in week 2. They squeaked by the Browns in overtime. Then they looked awful against the Bengals and the Titans. And then out of nowhere, so opposite of the Eagles, the Dolphins lost October 9th. Then they didn't lose again until December 4th.
Yeah.
They went 2 months between losses, which was great. It got them to 7-4. They won 6 in a row. Then they looked terrible against the Ravens. That was awful. But then they won 3 in a row, which they needed to do to get them in that spot. 2 of them were close victories against the Cardinals on the 11th and the Bills in overtime on Christmas Eve. And then they looked terrible against the Patriots on New Year's Day. And then got housed by the Steelers. They were down half, I believe. 5 of the 11 defensive starters missed that game, and we know what happened to backup quarterback Matt Moore in that game as well. Now, he did come back, but so I was actually happy with what happened with the Dolphins last year to win that many games, go on a 6-0 run in the middle of the season, and actually win 9 out of 10 from October 16th through Christmas Eve. But I didn't have any expectations for them to win in the playoffs or make the Super Bowl. So last year was a success. First year of Adam Gase. This year, everyone was excited, hopefully, to replicate that, push the Patriots, try to grab a wild card spot. The injuries in the schedule, I think, may prohibit that.
So you don't think Jay Cutler is the...
I don't actually have that much of an issue with Jay Cutler.
I don't either, but I don't think he... I think it's kind of like a neutral move, which honestly is good. If you can go from one quarterback to another kind of neutral move, I think that's
Gase
good.
likes him. Gase familiar with him.
Right.
Cutler knows the system.
Yeah.
So the Dolphins brought in Julius Thomas.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think that has the potential to be really good, but it's hard to say. This isn't a knock on them, but he was good with Peyton Manning as his quarterback. You know, and not ever since then. So
we'll see.
Right,
We'll
but
see.
that was the extreme because his other quarterback was Blake Bortles. So if you go somewhere in between with Adam Gase again,
hopefully things
maybe
are
that can
looking
be good. Right? He has to be better than he was in Jacksonville, right?
up. You would think.
But let me rephrase that. He won't be worse than he was in
True,
Jacksonville.
true. The Dolphins added Lawrence Timmons from the Steelers. Good pickup for them. Ted Larson, free agent. He's out for the season. Nate Allen.
I do.
Anthony Fasano is back for a second go-around with the Dolphins as a blocking tight end.
Didn't know he was still in the league.
Yeah, they signed T.J. McDonald, who's suspended for the first 8 games. So if the Dolphins are holding on and can get to maybe 4-4 in those 8 games,
Yeah,
his
a
return
big pick,
could be
yeah.
pretty good. And then obviously they brought in Cutler once Tannehill got injured. Their losses, Jordan Cameron retired. That's why they went and got Julius Thomas. Other than that, I don't know if they lost. Jelani Jenkins was a guy that I always wanted to step up.
Yeah.
I always had a bit of a bittersweet relationship with him because he was supposed to go to Penn State and spurned them. Deion Sims did go to Chicago. Fasano's kind of his replacement. And they were able to re-sign Rashad Jones, which is good. If he can stay healthy, he's a great safety for them. And right now, Mike Hull's starting middle linebacker for the Dolphins.
Oh, man,
So
that's cool.
That's cool. I like it.
You hope it works out.
I hope it works out.
Right.
And, so it's Timmons, Alonzo, and Hull, because it's supposed to be Timmons, Alonzo, and McMillan.
Right. I like Mike Hull.
Yeah.
But, it's a little different. But he can be serviceable, hopefully.
Sure. They released Mario Williams. Earl Mitchell moved on after a couple years. Deion Jordan was a massive bust. He's gone back to Seattle. And, we mentioned McMillan, their second rounder. I also like Tankersley, the Clemson quarterback, in the third round. Davin Goodshaw from LSU, who's got a perfect LSU name. He is in line to see some snaps this year. He was a 5th-round pick. And Charles Harris out of Missouri. I usually don't like Missouri pass rushers. I wasn't high on this pick. He's looked pretty good in camp and the preseason, so hopefully in a rotation with Wake, that'll really, really help them. Quick look at the Dolphins' schedule, and this is why I'm talking about it. It's a lot more difficult this year. So they start with Tampa Bay at home.
That's
Tampa
a tough
Bay,
one.
I have winning that division, so that we should be able to see where both teams are hopefully immediately. Then they got a little bit of a reprieve where you got to win. You got to at least beat 2 out of these 3 teams: Chargers, Jets, Saints.
Yep.
2 of those 3 are at home.
No.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. I missed the at in the Jets one. 2 of those 3 are away, so
Right.
it's tough going. They do get the Saints, but
Right,
it's in England.
Oh.
So they have 2
So
away
they're all
games.
away.
Yeah.
The 3 away games.
3 away games. So I went from 2 to 3 at home to actually being 3 away games.
So, oh my gosh, they go to LA, and
To
then
New York,
to New York,
to-
and then to England.
And then the next week they don't have a bye after the England game. They have the Titans.
Now, I believe they were last year. That happened at Jacksonville, and Jacksonville had asked to not have it that early in the season. Like they wanted to buy it later.
Ross actually asked to have early games at home at the beginning of the year, and I don't know if it worked out in their favor, but he did give up a home game to go to England to play the Saints. So they don't get him at home in Miami Heat, but they don't have to go to New Orleans. So I'll say push there. But the schedule doesn't shape up nicely. If they want to challenge for a wild card spot, they have to beat the Chargers. They have to beat the Jets. They probably have to beat the Saints.
Yeah.
Then they have to beat the Jets again. Probably say they have to beat the Ravens.
Yep.
Now we're up to 5 wins.
Right. I'd say you have to beat the Panthers.
Looking at the rest of the schedule, you probably say they have to beat the Panthers. That's 6 wins.
Or you could flip that with Oakland because Oakland's home and the Panthers are on the road.
Well, either way.
But they have to win one of those 2.
But then you look at the rest. That means they probably have to beat Buffalo twice in 3 weeks.
Yep. They have to beat the Broncos.
Now you're at 8, which means then you have to beat Denver. That gets you to 9. Because all the other 7 games, I would say, are losses.
Yeah.
Which means Buccaneers, Titans, Falcons, one of Raiders or Panthers, Patriots twice, and the Chiefs.
At the Chiefs.
At Kansas City. I definitely chalk that up as a loss. Although they usually win a game on the road that they have no business winning.
Well,
I'd
you'd
rather
much rather-
it be the New England game
I was gonna say.
on November 26th.
Right.
But so I think at best Miami's 9-7, and that's if everything in the games that are push or must wins go their way.
Which is a stretch for a team that's already lost 5
Oh my
starters
gosh, yeah, absolutely.
by week 3 of the preseason.
Right.
So yeah,
And that would
I
also
agree.
mean that they would go. Well, they go 3-3 from Thanksgiving on because that we had them beating the Broncos,
Right. Yeah.
and then beating the Bills twice in 3 weeks. They also play the Patriots twice in 3 weeks. So awesome scheduling there. So, but that also have them going 4-2 in the division, which I think is reasonable.
I mean,
That's what they went last year.
Right.
They beat the Bills and the Jets both times last year. Now, one with each team. Actually, both the Jets games were close, and I think at least one of the Bills, if not both Bills games, were close. So, Dolphins at best 9-7. I think they're probably 8-8, maybe 7-9.
You got to beat the Jets both times, and if you can split with New England and the Bills, that gets you to 4. But in reality, you're maybe more likely to beat the Bills twice, lose to New England twice. But we'll have to wait and see.
All right, well, let's get this over with. We don't have much to say about them because they were 14-2 last year.
I was going to start the show with Brady's 6th. Because honestly, would you bet against it?
No.
Even with Edelman being out, I'm not betting against it.
They were 14-2 last year. They've gotten better in the offseason. That's what bothers me. And even with the loss of Edelman and it not working out with Coney Ely.
People throw around collusion. Is collusion happening? How do the other NFL teams not collude against the Patriots and just keep players from going there? I know they're not supposed to do it, but let's make it happen. The Patriots make a living off stuff that they're not supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, and the craziest thing is from the Patriots, they lost Martellus Bennett, they lost LeGarrette Blount, they lost Michael Floyd, although he didn't really do all that much.
Yeah, but every one of these players that leaves is not going to be good,
and is leaving with a ring.
Every one of the players that does come is going to work out.
So they lose Chris Long, they lose Mingo, who has been a first-round bust, they lose Logan Ryan.
Chris Long, I hope that one works out.
And they lose Jabal Sheard. Those are all significant contributors or big names.
I love the name Barcavius.
They re-signed Bolden, Branch, Devlin, local Boyertown. Harmon and Hightower. Same thing with Butler, Fleming, and Williams. They re-sign, Justin Coleman, Brandon King, and Matt L'Engle. And who do they add? Rob Hausler, Stephon Gilmore, Lawrence Guy, Rex Burkhead, Mike Gillislee, Andrew Hawkins, David Harris. Are you kidding me? Jets cast off, and he ends up in New England. That's just.
What about Cooks?
That was a trade.
Oh, okay.
So
but
it's
still
not listed.
Yeah, but still, you add.
Right. So Sebastian Vollmer, he's probably the biggest one gone. And actually, I mentioned Andrew Hawkins. He retired. They lost Rob Ninkovich. He retired as well. Coney Ely, they just released. He was an off-season trade acquisition.
I think he went to the Jets, too.
He did. He was a huge player for the Panthers when they were good a couple seasons ago, and he can't hack it.
He's been cut by 2 teams this preseason, I think, already.
Right. Now they got Dwayne Allen in a trade with the Colts. He now takes over for Martellus Bennett. They got Brandon Cooks from the Saints in March when the new season started. And now, probably the biggest issue is they didn't have a lot of draft picks. And their number 1 pick in the 3rd round, Derek Rivers, is out for the year, or is expected to miss the entire year. So,
it won't matter. I saw the meme the other day. It's Edelman goes down, torn ACL, local grocery bagger signed
steps
to
up,
has MVP season or something.
So Brady,
it's not gonna matter.
Brady, Garoppolo, Brissett, all 3 quarterbacks are back. Running backs, they got a slew of them, and they like to use them often, and they use them all well. Bolden, Burkhead, Devlin, Gillislee, Lewis, White. Who's going to be the main guy? A lot of people are high on Gillislee and Burkhead, but you can't forget about Lewis and White. They won't
have a main guy. They'll have.
No, they never do.
It'll rotate as you go through the year.
Receivers, Amendola, Cooks, Edelman. We know just went out. That's probably a boon for Chris Hogan. And then you can't ever forget about Malcolm Mitchell and Matthew Slater. Tight end. Obviously, Gronk's there. They also brought in Dwayne Allen. So offense looking pretty good.
Yeah,
offensive line, some no-name guys, some interesting moves recently, but they got Marcus Cannon, a cancer survivor. Great story if you ever want to read about him. He's out of TCU. The Patriots took him and I think stashed him on IR for a year as he was undergoing chemotherapy and stuff like that. And now he's a starter and a Super Bowl champ.
That's awesome.
Nate Solder, tackle. Cameron Fleming, David Andrews. They brought in Jamil Douglas as a Dolphins cast-off. That always, he'll be like a superstar.
Yep.
That always bothers me. Defensive line, we know Coney Ely's gone, and they had Rivers go down with an injury. So kind of some no-name guys there, but they brought in Lawrence Guy. Trey Flowers is a recent draft pick, and that they'll slot in guys, and they'll just do what they need to do. Linebackers, Freeney, also Dolphins cast off. But they brought in David Harris. They brought in McClellan last year. Ninkovich retired. But Van Noy, another guy, interesting guy there. Dante Hightower will eventually be back. He's on the PUP list right now. Defensive back, Malcolm Butler, Patrick Chung, Nate Ebner. They brought in Gilmore. They re-signed Harmon.
Eric Rowe from
Devin
the
McCourty's
Eagles
still
trade
there.
last
Eric
year.
Rowe, who's making a name for himself in New England. And obviously Gostkowski's still there. So are they worse? Absolutely not. They're at worst a push, if not better. And that's without Edelman, Rivers, Ninkovich, guys that are injured or retired.
Yeah.
So they went 14-2 last year.
Went 14-2 last year. Brady didn't play 4 games last year. They went 3-1.
Right. So, okay, let's go through their schedule before we quick do very fast playoff predictions. Okay. They open the season hosting the Chiefs. No way they lose that game.
Nope.
They beat the Saints. They beat the Texans. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Bucks. They beat the Jets. They play the Falcons
in New England
at Gillette.
So they win
beat
that.
the Falcons. They beat the Chargers. They lose to the bye. There's the loss right there. They lose the bye week. They play the Broncos in Denver, where they've had trouble. But Denver's not the same team they were 3 to 5 years ago.
I think the next one when they play in Mexico.
They play at Oakland, which is in Mexico City.
So they have to go to Denver and then to Mexico City.
You think there might be a loss in there?
Maybe,
but it's coming off the bye too.
Right, and if there's a team that would handle just crazy things the best, it's the Patriots.
I would like to say it comes in this stretch between November 12th and December 11th. Because you have at Denver, at Oakland, and Mexico, host the Dolphins, go to the Bills, go to the Dolphins, go to the Steelers.
Right.
So November 12th
kick
to
another
December
week
17th,
on there to the 17th.
There's those 6 games. If the Patriots are going to lose 1 or 2 games, it's going to happen in those 6 weeks.
Yeah. I'm going to put them.
I think they're going to be 8-0 entering the bye.
Yeah, I do too.
And that would be wins against the Chiefs, Texans, Bucks, and Falcons, all of which I expect to be playoff teams this year.
I'm going to put it at 14-2. I know that's absurd to pick a team to go 14-2.
I'll one-up you.
You're going 15-1.
15-1.
I think they lose to the Raiders in Mexico City.
All right, that'd be interesting.
And I think they
you're
lose.
Higher on the Raiders than I am.
I think they lose at the Steelers. That's true. I am higher on the Raiders.
I'll actually. Oh man, if I'm only picking one loss, screw it. They lose to the Dolphins once. That's their one loss. 15-1, but they lose to the Dolphins. The Dolphins may be the team that Brady's had the most trouble with, outside of maybe Manning Colts, Manning Broncos.
Yeah, I agree.
And division teams, absolutely, it's the Dolphins. For the first time, just a year or two ago, was the first time that they beat the Dolphins twice in a season for a while. So the Dolphins give them an issue. Hopefully they can get them once this year. I know it goes against everything we just said about the Dolphins, but fine. I'll say Patriots go 15-1. They get a loss between November 12th and December 17th. One in there. They play the Dolphins twice in there, so I hope it's the Dolphins. I'm not going to guarantee that, but I hope it's them. But Patriots are 15-1. They're obviously the AFC number 1 seed. I'll say it's then Pittsburgh is my 2.
If you look at it, 5 out of the last 6 games are division games for the Patriots.
Well, and they also have a string of 5 road games in that 6 that I talked about. But they finished the last 2 at home. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
That's wild.
It's an interesting schedule when you have those Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve falling on football days. So Patriots are my number 1 AFC seed.
Me too.
Steelers are my number 2 AFC seed. They both get byes. My number 3 AFC seed is going to be the... Do I go Chiefs? Or do I go Texans? I'll say Chiefs are 3rd.
I'm going to say Raiders 3rd.
Okay. And I'll say Texans are 4th. Or did I pick the Texans, or did I pick the Titans? I don't even remember anymore.
I think we both picked the Titans.
Okay, fine. Titans are 4th.
Yeah, so...
So who are the 2 wild cards?
I'm going to go with the Texans.
All right, I'm going to say Raiders are my 5.
And Kansas City.
And Chiefs are yours.
So wait, do I end up with the same playoff teams as last year in AFC?
I don't know.
No, because I have the Titans making it. They
didn't make it. So who's my 6? As much as I want to put the Dolphins in, I'm not going to. So I have the Chiefs and Raiders are both in there. Chiefs win the division. Raiders are 5. So I'll put the Texans at 6.
Yeah.
So then...
Yeah, that's how I would do it. I would put Kansas City at 5.
Okay.
And
so then I'm not going to go through all the matchups. My AFC Championship game is absolutely Steelers at Patriots.
Yeah, I agree.
Patriots win.
Absolutely.
Can't go any other way.
And that's a game where I'll be rooting for the Steelers. Doesn't happen often, but it would happen that day.
I root for the Steelers much more often than you do, and I'll obviously be rooting for the Steelers.
It's happened more over the years. Pencil it in. I'm rooting for the Steelers in the AFC Championship game if they're playing the Patriots.
NFC. All right, so I'm picking between Seahawks, Giants, Buccaneers, and Lions. Those were my 4 NFC division champs. So I will say Giants are my 1 at 11-5. My 2, I'll say Seattle. My 3 is Tampa, and my 4 is Detroit. Then my wild cards are Dallas, the 5, and the Packers are 6.
Okay, I'm going Green Bay as my 1.
Okay.
I'm going the Giants as my 2.
Okay.
No, I'm going Seattle as my 2, Giants as my 3.
Okay.
And then I need my South. I think I picked Atlanta in the
Yeah,
South.
you did.
I wanted to pick Tampa, but I didn't have the guts to do it. So I'm going to pick Tampa as my 1 wildcard team, and I'm going to pick the Eagles as my other wildcard
Okay.
team.
I'm going to go Atlanta as my 5. And then... Wait, did I do wild cards already?
I thought you did, but I don't.
Now I'm like, wait, did I
was
do
trying
that?
to think of mine.
Yeah,
So
well, I said Packers.
yeah.
Oh, I said Cowboys. No, I don't have
Yeah,
Atlanta
okay.
making it. I was thinking I didn't do them yet, but I went...
Could happen. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
especially in that NFC South where we see
I'll stick with
that.
that. I'm not going to put Atlanta,
Right.
and I'll have Atlanta missing. That's fine with me. I think they're the next.
So
I
what's
think
your
the first one
championship
out.
game in the NFC?
So my NFC Championship game then is going to be. I'll be boring. Giants Seahawks.
I'm going Giants Packers.
Okay.
I have the Packers winning.
I have the Giants winning.
So you have the Giants.
Just
Patriots.
because I want Patriots Giants.
Okay.
And I know my uncle, if he's still listening, wants that badly too.
I'm going Packers Patriots. Who are you picking? Or we're not doing that?
Well, it's interesting. Packers Patriots. That's been a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Giants Patriots.
Well,
obviously, has been a
yeah.
Super Bowl. I'm going Patriots. Back to back. First time.
I'm going to go Packers just because.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Go right ahead. But I'm so...
If I had to put money on it, I'd absolutely pick
right.
Patriots.
That's right.
So
All
that
right.
tells you, I guess, what I think is going to happen. But
Absolutely. So,
fandom won out there a little bit.
yeah, for sure. So that wraps up our NFL previews. We finished the AFC East here. We just kind of recapped everything and then the playoffs. So we think Super Bowl 52 is going to be Patriots-Giants or Patriots-Packers. I have the Patriots coming out on top, winning back-to-back Super Bowls, the first team to do so since I believe they did it in, what was that, 04-05? 04-05 seasons.
Yeah.
And you have the Packers winning for the first time in, what, six years or so, I think, since they won it.
Yeah.
So a lot of familiar names, a couple new additions. My biggest going out on the limb, we both picked the Titans to go out on a limb there, and I went with the Bucks, not having Atlanta make it. So I'm trying to be a little different this year. I hope the Dolphins can make it. I just it's tough. It's tough for me to say that. And my Uncle Rich says he wants the Giants too. So
Careful
I think
what you wish
he probably
for.
loves everything I
Patriots
said the
slayers.
entire summer.
Yeah.
Everything we've said the entire summer, other than the Patriots losing the
Right.
Super Bowl.
So, and like, I think he probably takes some pride in the sense that, like, we've been beaten into submission. We used to argue that it was just luck for the Patriots, right? Like, we used to make that argument. We don't anymore.
Yeah,
We just
it's
like
not even
admit
worth
like they're
it.
better than everybody else, and we just hope that's not the. We hope they don't have it on a certain day, but like, what is there to argue?
Believe
anymore?
us, we want them to prove us wrong.
I
we
want
would be,
them-
wouldn't
no,
be more happy
this is
than to
what
be
would
wrong
happen.
right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm ready for Belichick to retire.
How about they win back to back? Both Belichick and Brady are gone, and Gronk retires. He's just like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm out.
we're not that lucky.
No, they'll both do another 5 years and win 3 out of the next 5
Yeah.
after that.
He'll go and coach at Pitt then. That's
Oh,
what would happen.
God,
That's
come
what would
on.
happen.
Oh God,
You're going to punch me for
I
even
am.
suggesting
I'm
such
just
a
gonna
thing.
hit you. So, man, September. Actually, our next show will be after the Penn State Pitt game.
Yeah.
So that better be a win. I know we say this Friday
I'm sick to my stomach,
better be
man.
a win,
I'm sick to my stomach.
but the next Saturday also better be a win.
yeah, see, this is the problem now. Like, there was a little reprieve there where, like, I rooted for Penn State because I wanted them to win, but there was no external pressure. Like, I just wanted them to win for the sake of winning.
Most pressure
Now-
right now since 1999. And 99 didn't end well.
Right.
Because 2005 and 2008 were a surprise. While we loved it, they were a surprise.
Right.
So, hopefully when we have our next show, which won't be for 2 weeks, it's actually the first NFL weekend is our first show, because next Sunday night we are doing our first ever live episode of the Bulldog Hour. We've put out 3 episodes this summer already, talking with the coaches, talking with the players, and just today I released the preview of the Mifflin game, which is this Friday in Shillington at 7 o'clock. Wilson's first game, Mifflin's second game because of that weird scheduling that's happened recently. And if you want to hear more from us next weekend, it's going to be all about Pennsylvania high school football, specifically the Wilson-Mifflin contest that will have been over, and then a preview of Wilson's next 2 games at Springford and home opener versus Central Dauphin. And to hear more from us about pro football, come back in 2 weeks, which would be, Sunday, September 10th.
And I hope there's a little bit of Penn State gloating going on
True.
in the beginning of that show, too.
Yes.
So
hopefully Penn State
if we don't
will be
mention
2-0.
it did not go well.
Right. Hopefully Penn State's 2-0 with wins versus Akron and Pitt, both at home.
Blowout wins. Then
we'll recap NFL Week 1 and talk about the Thursday night game, Patriots-Chiefs, all the Sunday action, the Sunday night game, and then we'll preview the 2 Monday night games to open the season.
Sounds good.
And hopefully I have a fantasy win, because I also play someone that's listening to the show right now, and I'd love nothing more than to beat him in the first week.
We'd all love that.
All right. Any shout-outs, anything to add, anything to say?
Happy anniversary to my parents just the other day. But
Nice. Yeah, happy anniversary. I know I think a couple of people up in New England celebrating birthdays. So
we had one of our listeners working the chains today up in New England.
That's true. Yeah. Cool. Well, happy birthday to early or belated to my cousin Rick and to Morgan. All coming up. We might have been more. There might have been more. I feel like there might be even a third in my family at the end of August. But now I'm drawing a blank. So, but happy birthday to everyone celebrating here at the end of August. We'll be back in 2 weeks. But yeah, my uncle Chain Gang hanging out on the field with his grandson Wyatt playing his first football game. So hopefully that went well, and he can tell us all about it sometime soon. I think that's it for us. So this wraps up episode. Yes, I was right. My Aunt Diane celebrating a birthday as well. I think there's a third one that's in the end of August. So there we go.
Yeah, I was not going to be able to
help.
Yeah,
I knew you wouldn't be able to help it. I'm thinking here, I'm like, I think there is another one. So yeah, happy birthday to my Aunt Diane as well. But I think that's it. So thanks for watching. This wraps up the 242nd episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.